And we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm here with a good friend, Mike Richeson. And how's it going, man? It's been a while since we talked. I think it's been like eight years since we've done one of these. But
Yeah, years.
yeah, actually, you introduced me into the world of podcasting.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. That you did.
Nice.
That you did.
I
What's
think
that?
that was which one was that? Was that my status quo overthrow one?
Yeah, yeah. Have you had
Yeah, that's right.
several since? Several different ones?
Um, I've had a couple, um, but nothing crazy. That was the most fun one for sure. But
That was fun. It was kind of controversial a little bit.
yeah, I made the news twice.
Yeah. So, like you're kind of domesticated now since that happened though, right?
Yeah, yeah, I am a house cat now,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
There's nothing
It
wrong
is
with
what it
that.
is, but
Nothing wrong with that. That's
well,
good. It's part of growing up.
depends. I
Depends.
guess.
Well, cool.
I'd done my best to avoid it as much as I could, but here we are.
Hey, you're a breeder, right? That's just built
I'm not
into us.
one of you now.
Yeah. So, so yeah, should we dip into how how did you end up on like how did you end up in social media? Like I never really got a story about that. Your profession.
Kind of by accident. I actually started as a journalist. I was a reporter. I was a county reporter for a while, and I loved it. And then 2008 hit, and I got laid off with everybody,
Yeah.
basically. And I kind of thought I was like, I really love the work, but I hate the pay, and I hated the kind of the not to get all conspiracy theory or anything like
No, no,
that,
no.
but just kind of the corruption of news and just
Yeah.
how bad. Like I think what people don't know would make them so mad if they knew.
Is it
Um,
kind of like if it bleeds, it leads type of deal? That whole.
well, there's that. And I don't have such a problem with that because that's just reacting to how humans are hardwired. Nobody cares that a plane landed safely.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
Okay, great. That's all
Uh,
it is. Who's going to read that?
yeah.
So you do. I mean, you have to sell stuff, but at the same time, it was more just like I had a column, and I found out like the publisher would let the advertising department like read it before it went out, and they would change stuff or take things out if I was going to potentially like upset an advertiser. I would
Right.
cover like a lot of like I was a county reporter, so I covered a lot of like planning commission, that whole thing. And they would have these, developers come in and they would break all kinds of laws, like all kinds of them. And I would write about it, but the editor was friends with one of the lawyers, and so he would take all that stuff out. Just stuff like that, where it's like people that are friends with the publisher or spend a lot of money with the newspaper, they have a lot of sway in what actually gets out into the real world.
Yeah.
And that's tragically not uncommon.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, I'm out. I love my skill set and I love what I do, but I'm out. So I kind of went into marketing and ended up working at a university in Oregon. And then, like, I forget what my title was, some kind of like creative content manager, whatever. But basically, like anything that went out, I was in charge of making sure that it was good, basically. Um, and then one day, my boss just came up and he's like, "Hey, you have like a Facebook account, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, good. You're in charge of our social media now." And that's kind of how it started. And I was sort of captivated by it pretty quickly, just because I'm kind of a cantankerous,
No.
anti-authoritarian
No,
personality
not
guy to
you.
begin with. So the idea that you could just kill the middleman was kind of amazing to me. I was like, I don't have to get permission to do anything anymore. I can just literally go to people anytime I want. Um, and so I started just doing like long form, like photo essays and, like journalism
Yeah.
essentially, but with the idea of promoting the university. And about 5 or 6 months in, I kind of had one of those, like, I hate this term so much, but like a viral hit kind of a thing.
Okay.
And so all these people that were alumni, that they didn't have Facebook accounts, they were like calling the university saying like, hey, I did a story on one of the basketball players. The women's team won the national championship that year, and they had this really just like charismatic, amazing point guard. So I did this kind of like photo essay on her, everybody started sharing it like crazy. People were calling the university, hey, I don't have Facebook. What is that? But I want to see the story. They ended up publishing it, I think, as like a fundraiser or something, and it raised like a ton of money. Anyways, that for me was like
Nice.
this light bulb moment where I went, oh, okay, everything's different now.
Right. You
Everything's
can
different.
you do actually do things with this. This actually has some teeth, right?
Mhm.
So what's your?
And
Oh, go
I
ahead.
didn't have to rely on some useless marketing manager's commission to like do anything.
Right.
I could literally just go out and just give people what they actually wanted rather than like, oh, well, this doesn't have our tagline, or oh, our
Right.
logo needs to be bigger. And I was like, nobody cares about that, stupid. Like,
Yeah.
nobody cares.
Well, now it's
Uh,
like you have the Facebook algorithm though, right? I mean, now you kind of have to play to Facebook's policy rules in a way. If we're talking about Facebook in particular,
well,
well,
yeah, I mean, this is 2008. Things are radically different now.
yeah.
Yeah, the whole world is different now. So
What do you think about that? What do you think about Facebook's cock blocking? Or
I don't care.
it's like their platform, so I guess they have every right to do it, right?
I mean, there's that whole conversation of like, at what point does the internet become a utility that you, rather than treating it like a private company, it becomes this thing where it's like, you shut people to the internet, have you essentially killed them, in this new day and age? And that is a conversation, but for the most part, these platforms, I'm not going to change it. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to make Facebook not be Facebook anymore.
Right.
So it's
Those.
like I can either be pissed about the reality of the situation and fail, or I can just go, okay, well, those are the rules now,
Right.
and I have to play by them or else. Like, I got a hate speech violation the other day,
Yeah.
like literally, and I was like, what? I even appealed it. I was like, this is not hate speech. Like, I was saying how crazy someone's hate speech was,
Yeah. But
and
but
which I
because
don't
it
really
played
hate
into it.
anything. But because it was like, it got triggered, I'm assuming it got triggered by a bot, and I don't know if the review process is human or not, but they were like, no, this is definitely speech. And
Yeah.
I was like, what? This is crazy. But it is what it is. Like,
Yeah, it's their
they don't
platform,
care
right?
about me.
Yeah, yeah. So out of all the platforms, I think I've heard you say your favorite's YouTube, right?
Oh, by a mile, yeah.
Yeah. Why is that? Just because it's more open, or just the creative potential of it, or what? Why is that your favorite?
Um, I I personally don't care about bite-sized content, really. Um, I don't I don't care about scrolling through Instagram and, oh, look, another pretty photo that Instagram wants me to show. I
Right.
just don't care about those things that it's like, these things I'm not going to remember it in 5 seconds. It's over. It's gone. It doesn't have any impact on me whatsoever. But YouTube, like the ability to communicate, like genuinely communicate with people, day in and day out. And then I love video as a medium anyways. And like, you spend time, like Casey Neistat's a great example.
Yeah.
Like, I watched, I was a subscriber of his, way before he even had the vlog. And when he started that vlog, it was like one of my favorite parts of the day. And even though I've never met him, I spent 2 years of my life spending 10 minutes a day with Casey Neistat. And when
Right.
he quit doing the vlog, I was legit sad. I was like, this is a stranger. He doesn't know I exist. And I'm like bummed out because
Right. You made a personal connection. Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, man, I have never had that experience on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. So for me, YouTube is, and I think that, the potential on YouTube is just massive, compared to anything else.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and it probably, for me too, like, is kind of a good way to look at content and how content can be created and stuff like that. So it's a really creative platform for sure. I agree with that. Yeah. Well, what's you got any big projects in the work? Are you working on anything big? Gonna drop anything big? Or just the day to day?
It's kind of day to day. COVID sort of derailed most of the big projects that I was working on, and whether or not those come back, I have no idea. So, I mean, I still do client work and things like that, but most of it's not too thrilling right now. I do my own stuff. I mean, I have a YouTube channel and things like that, and I don't know necessarily what I want to do with it, or how it all plays into things. I think, like, this year for me, probably for a lot of people, I've just kind of gone like, man, I'm not entirely sure what I do next,
Right.
or how I translate all this stuff, because to be honest, I'm super just kind of like burnt out with just agencies and marketing people, social media, and the whole thing. But I love, I love shooting videos. I love connecting with audiences. I love making things that make the internet a better place to be. I love all that stuff so much that I'm sure I'll do something with that. But
it's not a fan of not a fan of the bureaucratic side of marketing or the propaganda esque angles that people take.
I'm totally for propaganda.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing to say as a marketer, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just anything, like everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Any idea that you want to communicate involves propaganda. It's just, it is what it is. Like, it can be bad, it can be evil or good, depending on, but I don't have any problem with clickbait or manipulating people or
using psychology,
things like that.
Yeah,
none of that.
What, your channel is like a guitar review channel? Is that?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'll have to link that in the description after this.
Yeah, I started it in January. Yeah, January.
Nice. So, in the propaganda space, what do you think of the two sides of the political landscape right now?
I mean, they're both heinous, evil monsters.
That's an interesting point of view.
They're just surrounded by, a cacophony of useful idiots. Like, that's honestly how I feel.
Like Idiocracy came to life, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And the people that root for them. It's like, I genuinely don't understand it. Like, I can't even wrap my brain around it. I don't understand at all.
It'd be interesting to do a poll and see how many people actually play into a side. Like, I'm sure there's polls out there already. I mean, there has to be, a lot of them, right? But because a lot of people I talk to seem to share that same perspective, like, of that both sides are not the most. They don't have a lot of integrity and are a little bit, it's politics, right? It's politics.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people say that, and they mean it. I think they mean it. The problem is that when voting day comes, they've been legitimately brainwashed into thinking this is the most, I can't vote third party, or I can't just not vote, or this is the most important election of my life, and lives depend on this and all this stuff. And you're like, one, that shouldn't be true, and if it is, it's over. Like, if your life is dramatically impacted by who's the president of the United States, we've fucked up so bad that I don't know what you do with that.
Right.
And the other thing is that it's never true. That's why we keep getting stuck with just these garbage human beings on each side of the aisle who don't represent us. They aren't for freedom. They aren't for anything useful other than their own gain.
Right.
And it's because we keep getting sucked into, oh God, this is so important. I have to vote, one party or the other. And it's like, no, you don't.
What do you think? What do you think are some solutions to that? You think that we have any solutions? Have you looked into any options to solve that problem?
I tend to vote third party.
But your vote doesn't matter if you do that.
Great, okay.
Yeah, all right.
It's that whole just nonsense. People go like, well, your vote matters unless you're not going to vote the way I vote.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
You're stupid. Like, okay, cool. Well, you're just another one.
Yeah. So, you think voting third party is a good? You think voting third party is a good solution? Like, what if everybody voted third party? Do you think that would make it you think it would make an impact or change things?
Well, I mean, the reality is that people have been voting third party in massive numbers for decades, and it's the none of the above party. Like, that's who gets the most votes, like, by far. I mean, people who don't vote vastly outnumber the people who do.
Right.
So it's like, for me, I often don't vote too, or I'll write somebody in or whatever. Like, one year I had people write me in. I got like 30 some votes for governor or something. I know, because it's kind of, for me, it's always just been a bit of a joke. I just think it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous process that I think makes people stupid. It just makes people dumb. Whenever I get into a political conversation or argument, I walk away going like, I became an idiot for 30 minutes. That's what just happened. And it's never positive. So, solutions, I don't know. I don't totally know, where we even go from here, other than, I I'm not really a libertarian for the most part. I think libertarians are Republicans who haven't thought very hard about what they are.
Well, as somebody who believes
So
in the liberties of like the Constitution and stuff like
kind
that,
of,
kind of. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the problem is they go like, well, we're just going to take what is and now just strip away government. So you're like, well, we've built this giant oligarchy. You can't just leave that intact and walk away from it, because that's just as bad. And
right.
that's what we have now. So it's like, yes, in theory, I like a lot of what they stand for. In practice, I go, whoa, wait a minute. Like, all you're going to do is just make us slaves to what kind of already exists, but it's just
Right.
going to sort of feel more free. Um, so I don't know how you dismantle a system like that, but it has to happen. It has to be smaller. It has to be focused on individual liberty, um, and I don't know if we're going to get it.
Yeah, it's a pretty big beast to try to tackle. I don't know, like some people, especially in where I'm at in Portland, there's a lot of just anarchists that just want to see it just fall apart, you know. And
Yeah, those aren't
oh,
anarchists,
no,
though.
no, they're just
No, those are actual fascists. Like the Antifa people are actual That's what they
yeah.
should be. Actifa is what they should be. Like
It's funny
anarchists.
too. It's funny because it's usually the people who are so adamantly opposed to one side that they end up becoming a part of that side in a way, or contributing to that. Like, I don't know. I guess that's kind of a Taoist way to look at it, but they
Well,
end
I
up
mean,
contributing.
the reality is that like anarchists are not. They're not against rules. They're just against rulers.
Right.
Like they're for society. They're for civilization, just based on the idea that consent matters. Like, crazy, right? Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, and that I should be in charge of myself more than anybody else.
And more
Uh,
self-reliance.
the whole, this spectrum of whatever Antifa or the alt right or whatever, they're the same thing. Like, I always kind of look at it like it's a circle, and at the top is maximum freedom of the individual. And everything that infringes on that just falls down towards the bottom, towards tyranny. Um, so I don't look at it as left and right. I just look at it as top and bottom. And these people who want to control other people, they're just totalitarian bottom feeders. That's it. They're garbage. I have no room for them in my life. Um, and I honestly, like at this point, with the Antifa and all the rioters, so I don't care what happens to those people anymore. I just don't care. Like, if the feds roll in and just go full Tiananmen Square, so
Jeez.
be it. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
And the problem with that, and the problem with that is that's a very common sentiment now.
Yeah.
And that's what's terrifying, because enough people are going to go like, I just want it to stop. I, I'm not going to not drive downtown because some blue-haired psycho is going to try to drag me out of my car and beat me to death because I don't believe in the same pronouns or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
enough people are going to go like, I want it over, and I want it over right now. And all that does is usher in a bigger, more restrictive police state, and it hurts everybody in the long run. But when you get these wild pendulum swings, all it does is create the opposite effect on the other side of the aisle.
Right.
And it's terrible. And I feel bad that I feel that way. I really do. But when I watch these people burning down businesses and assaulting people and just going insane for no end, like they're rioting for less freedom, and I go, that's it. I don't care what happens to you anymore. You don't have a cause that's noble or good. You're just evil human beings, and you're infringing, often violently, on the rights of other people, and you forfeit your right to exist at that point. Like, it's just over.
In a way, though, it's sad. Don't you think it's like they're creating a vacuum in a sense of of liberty and what should be like. I don't know. It almost makes it where it's where perspective of one side is so powerful that it will shape perspective of someone else's side, and then in a way it's kind of like just a snake eating its own tail. Like it'll just keep going on, and like I don't know if there's a solution to it, but I think this is just my perspective is and this is just like we used to talk back in the day too. It's kind of esoteric or whatever. I'm not sure if saying that they're evil and all that kind of stuff is really going to solve any problem. Of likely just make it worse or exacerbate the
Yeah, but
issue.
it's true.
this well, there's lots of evil people if you consider evil to be like self-centered, You know, and
No, self-centeredness is not an evil trait. Infringing on the rights of another human being is an evil act.
and
Period.
often that's done because of self-centered intention, though. Like somebody they want something, and
Sometimes,
yeah,
but everybody operates in their own self-interest, and that's totally fine.
that's
Again,
nature.
how it comes out is the problem. And for me, like this idea that we all need to love each other and all that. No, we don't. No, we don't. We need to leave each other alone and respect everybody's rights as an individual, and where my rights begin, yours end. And if at any point in time you try to violently infringe
Right.
on my rights, that's evil.
That's fascism. Oh yeah, that's fascism. Absolutely.
I don't even care what anybody calls it. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
Period. And
Well, it's like that's like natural law. Like that's there's natural law that our you know our founding fathers put into the Constitution to hopefully prevent against things like that. But
right.
yeah, I mean, I know I see where you're coming from, absolutely, and I agree. I agree to a lot of it. But what's the solution? Like you just to go in and just start Tiananmen Square style, or just military might to come in through? Because then it's kind of like a counter argument to what you're just saying about freedoms and liberties. Like if the government can do that to a group of people like that, then why can't they do it to anybody, right? So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, totally it is.
Yeah.
And like I'm deathly afraid of bigger government, but one of the only things the government is actually good at is violence. That's it. And that's what they should exist to do. They should exist to protect the rights of the individual.
So you're saying our government's not good at policy making?
So if a bunch of whacked out Antifa people are running around trying to burn down Portland, the government should come in and go, hey, that's not how civilization works. You're destroying the lives of other people, and you can't do that anymore. So stop. And if they don't, I mean, it's no different than if you're breaking the law and a cop walks up to you and goes, hey, you can't do that. And you go, fuck you. And you pull a gun, like they're going to kill you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's kind of a valid use of the government because you're supposed to protect the rights of other people.
Using law and order. I mean,
right.
Law.
So
yeah.
if we can't have a civilization, then what do we do? I don't see a solution that just involves going, well, they have a different point of view, so
I think
they want to shut down roads and burn down stuff. Okay, cool.
I mean, I have a lot of friends from either side of everything, but I think that a lot of it's and like there's always extreme people in every group, right? And so it's not. I don't think it's fair to generalize like it's all Antifa or all whatever, all Proud Boys, whatever side you want to look at. But
I agree, but like I don't have a side. Like
oh yeah,
I'm an extreme.
I'm the same.
Extreme human liberty. That's
right.
my team.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's quite small. So when I look at this situation, I go, well, I don't see a lot of Proud Boys burning shit down all over the country. I don't see a lot of Proud Boys walking around demanding that people eating dinner at a restaurant raise their fist and salute them. Like I see people, put Trump flags in a truck and drive around town with their ARs, which is dumb, but it's not illegal and it's not hurting anybody and it's not infringing on anybody's rights to do that. And then everybody flips out like they're the dangerous ones. And you're like, wait a minute. People who are going, hey, psychos, you can't burn down my stuff. Like somehow they're the dangerous ones. And it's like, that's insane. Like that is insane. The idea that like self-defense is some kind of like morally repugnant act that triggers people. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. So I agree. There are extremists on both sides for sure. And they're both bad. They're both wrong. They're both evil. I think that should be fairly obvious. But as an outside observer watching both teams, I see it from one side significantly more.
Do you think that has something to do with marketing and propaganda, though? See, I mean, we got to be careful.
For sure.
All right, because
90% of the problems in this country are 100% manufactured. Like,
so, yeah.
I've been around the country repeatedly, multiple times, fast and slow, in cars, on bikes, on foot. Like, I've been all over the place, and I have met so many people, and there are very few that I was like, that person sucks. Like, wow, that is an actual garbage human being who's a racist, like all that stuff. Most people are totally fine. They're nice. They're they're good. They don't hate people based on gender or color of skin or
Right.
anything like that. Like, there's some people who are ignorant. Like, I don't know what the black experience is like in the United States because might not be able to tell this. I'm not a black person.
Right.
So, but the idea that like I have to immerse myself in the experience of another human being, all the time, it's like, no, I don't. No, I
Forcefully
don't.
in a way, you know.
I just
I
have to
understand that,
respect
but
that that's another human being and they are sovereign and they are their own and they have rights and they should have just the same opportunities as I do.
right. Yeah,
Like,
it's like
that's it.
yeah. I think a majority of people are like that. Like I don't think you're as rare, and as far as those respects go. I mean, because I'm the same. Most people I meet are the same way too. I mean, some people have their weird quirks where they have this belief structure that they've built up or this idea of something, right? Like like money's the root of all evil is a good example, or like the fact that there's the oligarchy is we're being ran by ultra wealthy people who call the shots because they have a control trip, a power trip, and so they fight against that by doing the same things as Antifa, be, like going into the streets and causing havoc or whatever because they don't like the the orderly
But
things of things.
what's the mechanism by which rich people exert control?
I mean, they usually
Government. They use
it's
government.
policy. They use government, but they use
Right.
what's at hand, and they know the money game. I mean, that's really what it is, and they know
Right.
that if they keep using the money game, it exponentially increases at some point. Like
They go to Washington and they buy politicians. That's how
it
they do it.
it
So for me,
depends,
I go like, I don't have a problem with rich people. I have a problem with politicians who are like, I'm for sale, and
right?
now I'm gonna write policy based on this stuff.
And so I think
Like,
that's a
so
big
it's
that's a
like
big
we don't
problem
need fewer rich people.
for sure.
We need less government. The problem is that they have power for sale. Not anyone's gonna exploit power.
Right?
That's gonna be around for forever. People
Yeah.
are going to do it. So if you limit their access to it, they can't do it. Like, government has been corrupt for as long as humans have existed. It's been probably more corrupt, in other parts of the history, but the thing was it didn't have the reach.
Like
You could
today.
have all these assholes in Washington being idiots to each other, and it was like, okay, well, that doesn't really matter because whatever, it doesn't really affect me that much. But now it's so ingrained in so many different parts of our lives that corruption has very real effects. So to me, it's like you don't get rid of an oppressive system by building a bigger system.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how this works. And all I see are people marching around for like bigger systems, and they want government to have massive power as long as their team has it. And you're like, wait a minute, hey, like, no, that's not the solution.
Well, I think there's a divide there. I mean, I don't think everyone's like that. Obviously, you and I aren't, but at the same time, even if we had a smaller government, if they still had overreaching power, it wouldn't really. I mean, it's not going to change. I guess I don't know. You have to kind of define what do you mean by a smaller government? In what way? You're talking
I
about
mean
just
that I want them out of almost everything. Like, there shouldn't be. I know this gets all people are going to think I'm crazy. Um, like, there shouldn't be an IRS. There shouldn't be a Department of Education. There shouldn't be like a Department of Homeland. Like, so many of these things are just absolutely insane. They're giant
so
bureaucracies that just infringe on people's rights. I
right.
think that government should be tiny. It should exist to protect the nation's borders, and there should be a justice system. And for the most part, things should be left to consensual adults. This idea that, like, if there's no governments, people aren't going to figure out how to build roads is so unbelievably dumb. Like, I don't even know how to respond to that stuff. And you go, okay, great. So we have roads, and we also have massive systems that steal from people, so
Right.
they can blow up stuff across the world. It's like, wait a minute, like, really? That's your argument? Is like, well, I like schools and roads. How would we have that? You're like, well, we would make it.
Right.
People value traveling around easily and education. It's not complicated.
Well, I think the idea of it is to have a system of organization to be able to create things and that are supposed to help the people. I mean, that's really what government's supposed to be. It's supposed to serve its people. I'm pretty sure that's its primary function, right? So
No,
no,
I don't think it should.
you don't
I
think
think it
you don't
should.
think it should serve the people?
I think it should protect people's rights.
Yeah, protect their rights, protect
Period.
their pursuit of liberty and justice and happiness and all that kind of stuff, right? Um, but it's so I understand what you're saying for sure, like as far as making it smaller. But what I'm saying is that even if it's smaller, even if there's less people, if they still have overreaching power to be able to, shape a certain area however they like, or be able to do whatever they like, if they don't base it off the principles of the Constitution, like we have it in the U.S. Um, that's where it gets dangerous. Like, what what do you think would be a
What do
solution
you
to
mean?
get back to that? To get back, yeah, we are exactly. We're already going that direction. We're already getting into the danger where the Constitution is being breached in ways. But you know, and I'm not an expert on any of this. Like, I'm not in law or anything
Oh,
like
me
that.
neither.
Yeah, but as far as a point of view from just a you know outside looking in, what do you think would be a good solution for us to, like? You think we all should march and try to bring the government? I mean, do you just leave it as it is and just watch it unfold?
No, I mean the nice thing is it's. I mean you see it now. In one respect, one of the things that you can look at from like Antifa, for example, is that a very tiny number of people can create radical, massive impact
Right.
in this day and
Have a
age.
loud voice.
You can you can get things done. I mean, even in the Revolutionary War, like most Americans were not interested at all in that. Like that was a fringe group of people
Yeah.
that were like, hey, let's just change history for forever and start our own thing. And they did it, and it's amazing. So for me, it's like we have, we could all right now just go, you know what? I don't consent to this anymore, and it would be over. We could we could build whatever we wanted. It's not impossible. Um, the problem is that it's like when I look at this stuff and like what should government do and how much power and well what if they can do this? Like for me, I go if you have to point a gun at somebody and make them do something, it's probably a bad idea. It's probably not a great idea. Unless of course that person's violating someone else's human rights. Then all bets are off. Uh, but for the most part, it's like if you have to point a gun at me and steal my money to go do something that I don't agree with, that doesn't sound like a very good system um, to me. So whether that means the United States should be 12 countries instead of one, whether that means we should uh, let states secede, I don't know. I don't know that stuff. I just know that when it comes to me, I go, I don't think that I have the right to force another human being to do something against their will. It's kind of the only issue I vote on, really,
Right.
is does that steal freedoms or does it make people more free? Um,
So then
that's kind of the tough issue, I
you'd be
guess.
opposed to a mandatory vaccine? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that would be like the Iceland,
Let me
but
pick out your arm.
yeah, right. If we just have a kiosk and you just walk by and or they can do it at a distance, a safe distance. They just shoot a tranquilizer
Just for the
style.
record, because people get triggered and
Okay.
hold more than one thought in their head at the same time.
All
It
right.
doesn't mean I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm
Okay.
pro-vaccine. I'm very for them. I think they've done amazing things for humanity. I just don't think that someone can go, hey, these COVID strains that we've literally never been able to solve in our life, suddenly we magically have in months a vaccine for, and you have to get it. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that. There's no way. There's no way I'm getting that thing. No way. There's no way.
Yeah.
Like you all go right out and be guinea pigs, and
I,
if everybody starts dropping dead, that sucks. But
yeah.
like, I'm not doing that. No
Yeah,
way.
no, I share your sentiment for sure. I'm not, yeah, and same. Like, I'm not anti-vax or anything, but yeah, it's against, kind of against liberties and free will, right? I mean, to be, yeah. So,
Well, it's just psychotic. I mean, it's like that's just like dangerous.
well, and at a certain level too, you gotta. It's good. It'd be good to question, like, okay, well, is there a money incentive here? Is there is something we're missing?
For sure.
And that's something that doesn't come into question very often for some reason, in in the U.S. and the world even. So,
But at least I can trust a profit motive. Like that's easy to get. I totally understand that. It's not dressed up as anything that it's not. I don't care. Like, if people want to make money because they invented a vaccine that solves something that most people don't even know they have, great. Like, good for you, man. But you can't then go to the government and say, hey, you're going to pay me, and then you're going to get the military to go forcibly inject this into people. Cool? Like, that's not cool. That's no. That's a big no.
Yeah. All right, somebody finally chimed in saying they can't hear you very well. No, we're like an hour in. Let's see if
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. It says it's sharing it well, and my audio looks good here, so I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's just on their end. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how this turns out. No use freaking out about it now. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about it. So.
Hey, learn how to read lips, man.
Right. Yeah. So as far as solutions go, though, I mean, like, you're kind of suggesting like the Iceland movement, right? Like, just go and march. That's one option. What about like, because again, I'm not an expert, but like, there's Article 5, like, or if we all wrote into our local, congressman or woman, there's supposedly a way where the states can organize if they get like a 38 state majority. They can amend something to the Constitution to be able to change some type of policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would the amendment be? What would you like to see as an amendment, since you obviously don't like how the government runs right now, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think if the Constitution worked at limiting government, we wouldn't be here. So I don't know that I'm like wildly enthusiastic about writing another chapter in a document that hasn't worked. I don't know. Well, I don't know.
I mean, I look around and it's like it's working to some degree, right? I mean, we're here, we have systems in order in a way. I mean, we have roads, and there's certain basic necessities that are taken care of. Like, an example is like energy, right? I mean, we all have power everywhere we go. That's more than can be said for a lot of other countries, So,
yeah, I mean, I think that, for me, what it makes the Constitution so amazing, and just like the founding fathers in general, with their philosophies, not necessarily their policies. These were slaveholders. So, it's not like they were perfect human beings, which is totally fine. But for me, it was just kind of their founding philosophies on what should government do? What are the rights of a human being? What should we protect? What should we, all these things. And for me, it's just so fascinating that they were like, the crowning jewel of the universe is the individual. It's the individual. It's not the group. It's not the collective. It's not the nation. It's not the union. None of that stuff. It's the rights of the individual human being, and that person right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. That, to me, is kind of like the fundamental state of everything. So,
right.
The Constitution, it's in there right now. Like, there's nothing that we need to change. It's honestly, that's why I get confused when I go like, well, what new law should we pass? What should we,
well, I mean, for example,
just get rid of stuff.
Get rid of it all.
Add anything. Just get rid of things.
Yeah, because it's kind of like adding more.
This nonsense.
It's like adding more code sometimes, right? Then it gets gets overly complicated, right? Like adding new kernels to Windows or whatever, right? Yeah.
Like, humans are smart. Humans are smart. They can do
I agree.
things that we could never even imagine.
We've come up with a lot of crazy technologies too, and
we went from the horse to the space shuttle in like 80 years.
Yeah.
Like,
pretty impressive.
That's mind blowing. Like, human beings are fucking cool, man.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
They do cool stuff. So for me, I'm always like, just get the hell out of their way. And if they do something evil to another human being, step in and put a stop to it.
Right.
Other than that, just leave them all alone. Leave them alone. They're going to do things way better than any centralized planner will ever do in a million years.
Yeah.
Look what Elon Musk has done.
Well, here it brings up an interesting point that Jason and Metal Gear Mark III also both kind of talked about. One is, we talked about like corporations and money playing a big factor into governing bodies, right? Lobbyists and all that kind of stuff. And so Metal Gear Solid brings up, or Metal Gear Mark III brings up an interesting point, which is about blockchain solutions. You know much about blockchain solutions and governance?
No,
not too much. So there's
Does
a
it increase human freedom or not?
it can potentially because it'll take a third party out of it. It'll take out the middleman, like you were talking about earlier, getting rid of the middleman, right? The governing body is the middleman in a way, and then we can all vote on certain because there's a governance system that's a non-fudgeable, like you can't change it, and it's very transparent. Everybody can look and see, where the votes are coming from, but yet they can still be private to where if you vote for something, somebody's not going to know that you voted for it, type of thing, and anonymous. So
I don't know if I'm all for anonymity, that kind of thing. That's I mean, there's pros and cons to that. I don't know where I stand on that in terms of.
right. Well, the power of the technology, though, is that we would be like if the government had a blockchain system and could put certain line items on in contract in the governance system, we could all vote upon that. If we all, in this case, we'd all have to own a stake of the cryptographic the blockchain, right? We could all vote on it and can issue in some type of new form of governance and stuff like that very easily and very quickly without very much bureaucracy. But would powers that be just hand technology like that over to the people to be able to do that? Probably not.
No.
And yeah, but it's interesting.
That doesn't really solve or maybe it does because I'm an idiot about blockchain. But like if let's say 65 let's say you get 65% of the votes to vote for something really terrible, like let's reintroduce segregation. Like what if that passes?
Right.
Well,
I mean, right now we have.
Well, now it's the mob.
Well, hopefully it would before it ever got to that point, before it was ever put into review for governance and for something to change, for policy to be made. Hopefully it would have been well thought out of. So it's not like any contributor can just be like, yeah, I'm going to throw up, I think swinging cats around like a ball and chain or a mace is a good idea, smacking people and having cat fights in that sense. Or, you know what I mean? Like it's not like that. There would be some type of reason for policy to be made. But in a sense that if money is a strong player in policy making because of lobbying and stuff like that, and especially like the banking industry, I mean, the banking organizations right now, there's a huge shift like going towards a lot more cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So these things might eventually be something we have to consider. So I mean, I don't know. Very technocratic, I guess. It's turning into our like Blade Runner or one of those situations. It's interesting, but then at the same time, like, what do you think of like the exodus from California? I mean, people are getting away from city centers at this point. I don't know if it's just from COVID, but at least from California because of some terrible policy and mismanagement of money. Like, how? And you kind of did the same thing, right? Or no, you went back to a city center. You went to like Montana for a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
There now I'm in Massachusetts, but
what decisions did you make? Like, or why did you decide to do that, move around and stuff like that? Same reasons, get out of the city.
Well, I mean, I'm from Montana, so that's kind of my home.
All right. Well, that makes sense.
And I'm much more of a rural person than a city person, just in general. I don't enjoy cities a lot.
Right.
So, but for me, like, people are fleeing California because people respond to incentives.
Right.
It's like, well, I could stay in this absolute shithole of a state and watch my taxes go through the roof, or I could just go to Texas and keep way more of my money.
Right.
So why wouldn't I do that? Like, that's the thing about all this stuff, is that people respond to incentives, and if you incentivize fleeing California,
right,
that's what people are going to do. Like, this idea that we'll just tax the rich like crazy. You're like, well, what do you think they're going to do?
They're going to leave.
Like, they're extremely mobile.
Yeah.
They're rich. They can go anywhere on the planet. So they could like stay here and give you 80% of their wealth, which you're going to squander on absolute bullshit, or they could go to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And pay 4% tax. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
So now that's why it's kind of the lead-in. One of the reasons why I asked is because there's a huge homeless population there too, right? And there's lots of lots of problems in that regards. And usually the people who house the homeless are the rich. I mean, they deal in
Right.
real estate and stuff like that. Um, but there's no incentive for them to stay, and there hasn't been an incentive for them to make affordable housing and stuff like that. At what point, or what do we do to be able to alter those things? Because the way I see it, like most city centers are going to become more and more like that. It's not like, we're going to want to make low income. We know what low income housing means and what that does to an environment usually. You know what I mean? So, like,
Well, and it's low income in the sense that it's only low income in the sense of like the tenant. Like the low income housing in California was costing like $600,000 or $700,000 per unit to build
right,
because the regulations had gotten so
so
stringent and there's
ridiculous.
so much red tape and so many layers of bureaucracy that by the time you built one of these things, it was almost $1 million to stick a homeless person in. And you're like,
Right.
well, okay. Like nobody wants to pay for that stuff.
Yeah,
They,
and
they
it's
just
not
go like,
incentive. There's
this is insane.
right, just like you said, there's no return. There's no return on their investment. So
Yeah. I'm
th-
like, okay, well, I'm not going to sit here and pay for this. I'm just
right.
going to leave
So
because I can.
so that could potentially be another or a way to solve that problem with like blockchain technologies, that there could be incentives for more of that, more of like you are able to get more of a certain cryptocurrency if these govern if these policies are met, or if this contract is met to where you house people, or you are able to feed people and stuff like that. Like that also could be another avenue. Because I remember we talked in the past, like you introduced me to sacred economics, Charles Eisenstein, and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's really cool, and I love that idea, but it's not very practical, right? I mean,
No.
yeah, it'd be great. Like on a communal level, I think it could work really well, but on a world scale where we're at right now, it's not very practical. And then I talked about the Venus Project, and I remember you had some reservations about it. Like I don't know, I think it was probably the AI part, right? Controlling everything, centralizing the information. But there's got to be like a happy medium of that. Like there's got to be some way to do that, don't you think? There's got to be something.
I don't know. See, like for me, I'm leery of, and obviously I don't know a lot about blockchain and crypto and all that stuff, but I'm leery of anything that gets more people to have to interact with more people because we're not good at it. Like we're just not wired that way. And people really struggle doing that stuff because you're you're literally like trying to make decisions based on people that you have no relationship with. They mean nothing to you. They're just ones and zeros in a computer. And we're not good at it. And maybe we'll get there. I don't know. Like maybe we'll evolve to that point, or maybe we all just need that chip so that we can handle it. I don't know. But for me, I'm kind of like I'm a Luddite in the sense that like I don't think like as you force people to interact at scale, the worse things get. And it's just happened over and over. And like I don't know how many times we need to repeat this whole
In
process before we go
history,
like,
right?
oh right, that sucks. We're not good at it. People hate it, and it makes everybody go crazy, and then millions of people end up dying. So it's
And so
like
you're talking about like
once
just the
we want to do
complexity
that,
of the whole a complexity of the system becomes too much to where it can't sustain itself, type of thing.
it's too much. Yeah, because I'm like, whether it's blockchain or if I'm voting or all these things, it's like I'm I'm trying to do things in my best interest that serve me, because that's what we do.
Right.
And then those unintended consequences roll out across 300 million people that I don't know. And some of them it destroys their lives. Some people get super rich. Some people it has no impact on at all. And I just look at it and I go like, why, why, why would I, why is that the process by which like some people kind of like inadvertently, I'm not even saying it's malicious, but inadvertently weaponize policy that destroys people, but it benefited me. So I like that policy. And anything that happens at scale like that, like I don't know how it works because there is no sense of human consequence to it. It's just, did it benefit me or not? And
Right.
that's fine at small scale and in communities, like we all work together and we do that stuff. At large scales, it's I don't know. I don't know how that works.
So there's like different, as it is right now at large scales, there's a lot of centralization, and those, we see like in the U.S., for example, like colleges that basically influence the vote. We have electoral colleges that influence the vote and that type of stuff, and those are based around, city centers and the populace, and so in a systems point of view, like that would be a centralized system. There's also a decentralized system, which is basically everyone all over kind of does their own thing, kind of like what you're talking about. And then there's kind of a happy medium in between. It's like a distributed system or distributed network where there's little nodes all over that help contribute. Like that's kind of how the states were supposed to be set up, I guess. But we kind of slowly fell away from that. So in a sense, I think blockchain technology could handle some of those issues. So long as we could understand the complexity of the blockchain system. So I totally get your argument. I totally get, like, it's hesitant. And just technology in general, new technologies in general, can be a little freaky too. But
well, we keep inventing technologies that are amazing, and then they get turned into something that we go, oh, that sucks. And then we have to like invent a new technology to control that technology, but then we're back in the same place, only it's a bigger scale, and it keeps kind of like spiraling in a lot of ways, out of control, and these kinds of things. And regardless of whether blockchain works better or not, I still come back to that sort of founding principle of like, I shouldn't get to vote on how government takes your money and then distributes it around. Like at the end of the day, that's kind of what things come down to for me. And it's like, I think individuals should be able to make those choices for themselves with other consenting adults. And blockchain might.
It has a consensus system like that. Yeah, it could potentially do that.
But it might just be just a fancier version of what we already have that sucks, and I don't like it. But I don't know. Like I said, it could be great. I just don't know. I have no idea.
It kind of starts with the technology of of us, right? Who we are and how we operate.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So how are you on time? I know you got to go pretty soon.
What time is it?
It's like my time is 10, so that'd be 1 for you, right?
Yeah, I could do like another 10 minutes.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting too, because the more complex a system gets, obviously if there's a linchpin and we missed and that pops out, it can screw up a lot of stuff. That's my worry right now with a lot of with how we have things right now, is we're overlooking some really important things, like taking care of people. I think is probably pretty important. We kind of got rid of a whole mental illness help system that used to be in place. So I mean, I don't know. What do you think there's any politician that actually cares about people, or you think they're all just, once you get to the epsilon, the highest of heights, like a lot of career politicians are at, you think it's just you're dead to actually doing things that matter for people?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn because like I don't think a lot of politicians are like inherently evil. I know I always come off as like I'm kind of like super pessimistic, but I'm not. I think you have people, a lot of them want to try to do something useful and beneficial for their communities, and they walk into a system that is not that, and they have choices. They can go, well, I can just walk away from this and be like, no, but then no human being really wants to give up that kind of influence and power.
Right. An opportunity.
And so you sort of end up walking into a system designed to corrupt you, and it works really, really, really well.
Right.
At national levels, I think a lot of those people are there because they're willing to do the most vile things, probably to get there.
Yeah.
At local levels, I think there's a lot of just good people who want to perform a civic duty and do all that stuff. The problem is, to me, it's not their personality or their character, it's their underlying philosophies, and that is they want to use the government to make people do things that they think are good because they want to build their utopia. The problem is their utopia is someone else's hell, and they're going to end up getting no say in the matter because it's policy, and that's what happens. So this side of the aisle is going to do really well, and that side of the aisle is going to die. And I go, look, your intentions might have been great, your underlying philosophy is garbage, and that's the problem. So I don't think they're bad people. I just think they have really terrible philosophies for the most part.
Well, that's good. It's good at least you give them some human credence. Like,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Well, I won't hold you up too much more. I'm glad to talk to you.
I always say the only reason that I get so annoyed and so angry about all this stuff is because I think people are so awesome.
Right. You think we can do so much more, right? There's so much we can do.
I'm not a nihilist.
Yeah.
I'm really not. I've met too many geniuses. I've met too many people with ideas that would like, they're just amazing people, amazing human
But they're
beings. Like
stifled.
I look at an individual and I go like, my God, all of the universe is right there. You can the amount of potential inside your little meat sack is just unbelievable. It's so amazing. And then we get trapped into these just moronic systems, and suddenly we're shouting at people because they wear a red tie and I wear a blue
Right.
tie or what. It's just like we just get
Ideologies.
sucked
Yeah.
down into the dumbest stuff. We get sucked into the minutia, and we lose kind of the vision of just who we are and what we could be and all this stuff. And it just, for me, I just get really disappointed, and then I do get angry and I just check out and I just go screw it, burn, I don't care.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I go through those. I go through those stages too. I think a lot of people do. Like it kind of, it actually, it's like it creates more mental illness for a lot of people in a sense when you start focusing on all of the crazy thought processes that people have sometimes. So, but
Yeah, it makes people nuts.
right, I just gotta look for like a solution. I just encourage finding some common ground with people. Like I think that's needed more. Like I can remember who said this, what quote, who quote, whose quote this comes from, but it's basically, we're drowning in knowledge and you know desperate for wisdom in our culture, and
Totally.
yeah, that's something that I don't know how to fix, but I think that it probably comes like you're talking about on an individual level. Each individual one of us has the power to do that, has the ability to do that, with how we treat other people and how we reach out to other people.
Yeah,
And that's
I
the
mean,
only.
I mean, I say this like all the time, like it kind of comes off as a joke, but it's not. And I always say, make natural selection great again. Like, people follow incentives. If you incentivize being a bum and you get to breed and live because other people are productive, then guess what? Tons of people are going to do that because it's the easiest thing. Where as humans, we kind of fall, kind of unfortunately, we have to like try to be good. Like my friend used to joke about he had this like old house cat that just never moved. It was a lazy POS. He sucked, but it could literally jump to the top of a bookshelf at any moment if
Right.
it wanted to. And you're
Yeah.
like, why is it that cats are automatically awesome? Like they just are like that. But human beings, like we
Humans
just
are
like
too.
let ourselves go. We're garbage.
No,
Just
I honestly think we're this. I mean, dude, I've seen some really large dudes like do some crazy backflips and stuff like that. I mean, physically, but no,
it's
it's
crazy.
just in general. I think humans are the same way. It's just a willingness to do something, an incentive, like you say, right? But at the fundamental level, it's like how we're raised is so important. Like how what's been conditioned into us from a very early age, what experiences we've gone through, and all that kind of stuff really plays a huge factor in each individual person. And if we don't reach out and be like, hey, I'm here for you, or what's going on? Do you need help? And those type of things, and we don't give some type of value to other people. I mean, I don't know if you know what I mean. Like if we isolate so much to where it's just all self, not self reliance is great, but like self um, preservation alone, I think is kind of the mess we're getting into right now. I think it's creating more of a mess because then you have these divisions of you don't want to hear what somebody else has to say or their other point of view, and you don't want to see the grounds of their argument or hear the merit in a discussion, right? I mean,
Yeah, but again, it's like, is the solution then? So what you're talking about, let's like the kids example thing.
right,
Like, how a person is raised has dramatic, profound impact on the rest of their whole life. So, is the solution to go, well, now I have to somehow pour my life and do all these kids who are neglected and all that stuff, or do we incentivize strong families and let that stuff work itself out? Like one of those things is not sustainable.
well, it's also
The other
becomes
one is.
challenging. Yeah, yeah, it becomes challenging too, though, because we have both the parents working now a lot of times and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
that becomes challenging
Well,
as
and
well.
you have a lot of, divorce rates are huge. Single moms have like crazy hard time. Like I think the
Right.
number one predictor of whether or not somebody's going to be stuck in a life of poverty is they have a single parent, which I'm not saying they're bad people. They're trying their best. They're in a bad situation a lot of
Right.
times, But it's like one of those things where it's like, well, maybe, and as someone who's going to sound wildly hypocritical right now, like maybe you should be careful about your choice of mate.
Right.
Like maybe, you know what I mean? Like if you're just going to
That's
run around and just bang people, like you might end up with a kid.
right.
But you don't like that person. Like obviously that's not my situation. But, a lot of people end up in that situation and you go like, okay, well, that was your choice. Like you're in that spot now because of the decisions that you made, and now there's a kid involved that you don't have time to deal with because you need to work 3 jobs. The dad left or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's these situations that just end up in these just death spirals, and it's like, okay, how do we fix the root cause of that? Because I don't think the solution is now the community as a whole has to raise a bunch of kids that aren't theirs. And that's a super tricky, tough situation.
Well, I
But
think it comes down to education, like I was saying, like the simplest questions aren't being asked in schools. Like drowning information and starving for knowledge, or starving for wisdom. The simplest questions of
totally.
who are you, who am I, why am I here, the big questions and stuff like that, and them to ask questions for themselves and explore. And some people, and some another interesting part of that is some kids just don't fit into the cookie cutter model, the military
Oh, totally.
industrialized model that we've created to make
Absolutely.
manufacturing workers. I mean, that's really what's happened, and so they're cast aside, and then they go through a whole bunch of traumatic experiences and events because they're trying to find their way. And so fundamentally, I think the solution to that is education and starting from the very beginning. But now we have so much mental illness. We have such a problem. We have like you know a lot of conditioned consumerism, and this idea that you have to keep consuming and keep building things up, and there always has to be growth. And I don't think that's sustainable. Like it's like Rome. Eventually we're gonna try to buy all the pepper, and we're gonna end up ruining our country in a way. So
Hmm.
I honestly think it comes down to education and doing things like a podcast. Although it's not like I have a huge subscription base or whatever, but doing more things like this and talking about this stuff, I think is probably at least the first step, and then acting in local communities is probably a second step. So that's what I mean. Like if we are just about self-preservation alone, I don't know if that's going to be very effective in. Like I totally see where you're coming from, and that should be a foundation of the who am I, why am I here, and what is my purpose type of thing, what I love to do. But I just think we should be careful of isolating each other, and especially now, like we're so isolated because of COVID and all that kind of stuff. It's just at a certain point we got to be like, okay, well, it's time for us to take some action or do something, right? That's scary for some people, I think.
Yeah, I forget who said this, but I don't know if it was directed at Americans directly, but it was basically that, people are really good at hacking at branches rather than roots.
Yeah,
And I think that's a lot of what we do. Like we go, oh, let's legislate symptoms and make sure that we never take care of the actual
I so
issues.
agree. Yeah,
And it's like, man, okay, well, here we are. And now a lot of us are, the only thing we have time and energy to do is self-preservation.
yeah,
And that's it. And so you just end up with people who are like, and then you start to see other human beings as like enemies because they're in your way, or, they're taking too long getting their checkbook out at the grocery store, or whatever it might be.
right.
And everybody's kind of at like, everybody's redlined just all the time. And man, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think this ends well, to be honest. But so
Yeah. I hope you're not right, but yeah,
me
the
too.
probability wise, yeah, I do feel that.
Yeah,
I do feel that. So, well,
yeah, it's
man,
fun.
I appreciate you coming on. It's been a while. We should do this again sometime, and hopefully I'll be a
Yeah,
little
for
more
sure, man.
a little more organized. I
Oh,
like you.
whatever.
Yeah. So do
Appreciate it.
you have any social media links you want to spout out there, and I can put them in the description below. People like guitars,
Yeah,
they can go check out your guitar
yeah. If you're into
YouTube.
guitars, that's great. Yeah, YouTube is fine. Otherwise, I mean, I have an Instagram account that I don't care about, and I don't accept friend requests from anybody.
Yeah.
So Facebook's useless. Yeah, it's
All
pretty
right.
much
Well,
YouTube.
now I'm not so hurt then. I was a little
Yeah.
hurt, to be honest, but now it makes sense. Well, cool, man. Well, much love to you, dude. And everybody out there, thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. Feel free to subscribe and all that, pushy sales crap. So much love to you all, and until next time, adios.
Laters.